Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Hudrico Live. And today we go toe-to-toe with the former welterweight champion of the world. Not one time, but twice. Showtime Shawn Porter, as he takes us through what it takes to be a boxer, life with your dad as a trainer, and having that mindset to be a champion. So if you know what it takes to be the best, learn from one of the best as Hudrico Live starts right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Hudrico Live. Hudrico Live. Hudrico Live. Hudrico Live. Hudrico Live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Hudrico Live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast and mine, the Hudrico Live Show. And today, man, we putting the gloves on, man. We going in the ring with a two-time welterweight champion of the world. Not the city, y'all, of the world. The one, the only, Shawn Porter. How you doing tonight, champ?
I'm good, man. I realize it's not just the city, it's the world.
It's the world, Craig. And you almost had to die to get that stuff, man. But hey, you did. Well, listen, first off, we want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us, man. There's so many places that we want to go with your story. But one, I want to jump off real quick. Everybody knows the boxer. They know 31 wins. They know 3 people got lucky. And, you know, we had a draw in there somewhere. Some referee was probably blinded some sides.
Yeah.
But what are some things that people don't know about you as the champ when you're not a boxer? Because I see one thing I noticed behind you got a couple football helmets back there. So while you've been in the ring, word on the street is you know a little bit about that gridiron too.
I love the gridiron, man. I'm a football enthusiast to the fullest. As you can see, Browns, and I got a Browns hat on that I flipped to the back today. I'm so salty because with everything going on with this C-19, this pandemic and all that, I lost track that this year's NFL football draft is in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh,
and I can't make it, man. That's a bucket list for me, man. That's on the bucket list. How is it at home and I can't get home for it? Listen, I'm sorry, it's happening right now, but I just figured it out yesterday. I'm putting 2 to 2 together. I'm like, no, this is 2021.
oh, wait a minute. It's next year. No, it's this year.
Yeah, it's this year. I'm mad, yo. So you getting the energy that I wasn't able to expound.
Hey, you know what? You know, we gonna tap into that. Now, as a Browns fan, you dedicated, because boy, ain't many of y'all out there who will proudly say you're a Browns fan. So big up to you on that.
No. We all do. Oh,
you do?
If you are a Browns fan, you have never jumped ship.
Okay.
Anybody you see not today, if they are a Browns fan, they either saw what we did last year and they're like, man, I'm proud of this team. I'm going to follow them. Or they've been there the whole time and they're like, man, we've been waiting on something like this to happen. So anytime you run into a Browns fan, it's just like me, hardcore from the time I could walk to now, or somebody hipped them on like, yo, you need to like me. I'm telling everybody, like I've been telling people for years, you need to jump on, man. Like the Browns is where it's at, and we finally got a good season out of them, man.
Listen, you guys actually showed up, and that was surprising for the success that y'all had. I believe this was a make or break a year for Baker. Yeah. But you know what? We're gonna name you the new GM of the Cleveland Browns. We got a draft coming up in Cleveland.
Yeah,
the Browns are on the clock. Who does the champ say they need to pick?
You know what? I don't know. I know. It's like it's a double entendre, because it's like, how are you ready for something you don't know what's going on with it? You don't know who played in the collegiate national championship and all that kind of stuff. I really don't know who I want the Browns to take, and I think I don't know because I'm still kind of riding on what we did last season, and so it's kind of like we had a great season with a relatively really good team. And I'm more so focused on duplicating what we did last year and with the growth of that team. I know that there's no rookie, nobody coming from the college right now who can have an impact on the team that can take us over the hump and get us into the second round of the playoffs. So I'm kind of looking at what we have as a core already to kind of get better.
Well, y'all gonna have some interesting things going on, and you get Odell back and all the other good stuff. So you guys should actually be a much better team. Now, see, I've been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. I need to make sure I say before Tom Brady. So it's been a lot of suffering over here. So I feel your pain. So now that we over here in the limelight, I'm over here like, hey, you know what I'm saying? We got jerseys and everything. Everybody wants to be a Buck fan.
How confident were you when Brady signed to play with Tampa?
When Brady signed, I was like, you know what? We're going to make the playoffs. That was that's all I really wanted to shoot for at that time. Then the season kind of went rocky and rolled it. Then we lost that game in Chicago. Then I was like, oh boy, we're going to do something. But see, the way I roll, I'm gang. If you play for Tampa, whatever position you play, you're the best at that position. So we got the best quarterback. We got the best running back. So I don't want to hear nothing about that other foolishness. So when we got to the playoffs, now real quick, let me tell you, my son, poor child, 14 years old, he been liking Tampa for his whole life. He been suffering a long time. So he tells me in the middle of the playoff game, he say, "Whew, Dad, this is the first time in the playoff. These things are stressful."
What? 14? You talking like that?
He said, "It's a stressful. We ain't never been here before." I'm like, "Son, calm down. Don't tell everybody that." But anyway,
right.
But you know what? We got the championship, and right now, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and can't nobody tell us nothing, man.
Absolutely, man. Congratulations with that.
Now, you've been doing boxing. Now, I know you say you love football, but when did you finally get turned on into the ring?
The same time, at the exact same time, actually. And I think the separation was with football. Football is not as hard as boxing. At least it wasn't for me. And I think, guys, you should be able to see this by now that I know the X's and O's pretty well for boxing, and it's like I picked it up the same for football. So I just think that the reason why my love for football kind of just has always been there is because football is not as hard. It's not as time consuming. The commitment is really only, I played high school, so the commitment was really only there between spring and fall. You take all the winter and things like that, and you kind of getting back into it in spring. So it was more like summer and fall was commitment. Boxing's commitment year round. You know what I mean? So I think that for a lot of reasons, even though I started boxing when I was 4 years old, I started training in the mirror every single day at the age of 4. And then I started competing at the age of 8. I was always running around with a football too. And then I started competing at the age of 8 in football. And so I just think that was a separation. There was more fun involved with football. And so I just kind of always, boxing was what I did, but football was what I always looked forward to, and then things just kind of took a turn for a different way for me, graduating high school. And it was like, man, I'm not going to college to play football. I'm going to box, so that's kind of how it all went for me.
Now, you said boxing since you was 4 years old, and then you compared to training when you was 8. So at the playground, you was ready for it to pop off. You wanted somebody to say something slick.
People never knew that.
They don't know. They never know.
People never knew that. My dad's so funny. He always did things like on the hush hush. My dad actually has a video of my brother in elementary school. I think my brother was in the 1st grade or something like that. You see, my dad just came to the school with a camera and filmed my brother at recess. And my brother had no clue he was there. I don't know if teachers knew he was there or whatever, but the kids are just doing their thing. But my dad's got the camera on my brother. My brother's playing with this boy, and things go back and forth. Next thing you know, in the video, my brother's chasing the boy around the park, but he wasn't chasing him in the friendly manner. He was chasing them to get to him. But that's where we come from. You know what I mean? So I never had to deal with anything like that. But yeah, I was ready. And by the time I was in 1st grade, I was ready.
I mean, come on. I wish somebody would step up. Come on.
Yeah, that's just, it's where we come from.
Now, let's talk about that bond that you had with your dad. Now, your dad is still currently your trainer right now. How do you, and because this is great for a lot of young athletes who dad coaches or their dad is involved in their athletic career. How were you able to separate my dad, the dad, and then my dad, the coach?
Yeah, me as a fighter, myself personally, I was never able to separate it. And for a long time, it weighed on me emotionally, weighed on me mentally. But God just created me a little different. So it was like anything that bothered me, it was just kind of like put it to the back of me and like just keep going. And it's like I'm literally like a winter plow in the snow. Like I just always kept moving forward. You know what I mean? A lot of guys can't do that. A lot of guys can't handle that. I'm at the point now at 33. Let's just say 5 years ago. 5 years ago, would have never imagined I'd be here today, to the point where I literally just told my wife, my dad is my business partner, has always been my business partner, but I didn't always view him like that. I kind of viewed him like my manager. I viewed him like my dad, or I viewed him like the guy who's, the man, the father who's doing everything for me in my career. And I never looked at him as a business partner. I'm like fast forward 5 years now, I'm 33. And I told my wife that I said I have the greatest business partner in the world, but I never knew I was going to be here at this point. But I'm at a point now where nothing goes to me and it doesn't go to my dad. I'm at a point now where he and I both have this genuine love and respect for one another, where we always, that's what I would tell any young guy out there right now, is that no matter what it is, you have to respect your father. You have to respect whoever it is that is ahead of your career, with the understanding that you may not always understand what they're doing, but their intention is always to help and put you in the best positions possible. It may not come to you, the information may not come to you the way you wanted to come. It may come with some anger, or it may come with some angst. It is what it is. You got to suck it up. You got to be a man, understanding that this man is here to help me. This woman is here to help me. And this is what I need to be my best. And I didn't always understand that, but it just, like I said, God made me to the point where I just always swallowed those big pills. I always kept my mouth shut, always stayed respectful, did what I had to do. And then we got to a point where it was just like, I realized that it was just me and him. It was just my dad and I. You know what I mean? I got to the point where I realized that nobody's going to be able to do this but him and I. We got team and all that kind of stuff, but the team was not always there. He was always there. And it just started to click to me. And I'm like, I'm gonna always use my dad as an advantage to get to whatever I need to get, do whatever I need to do. He supports me. Sometimes he supports me behind closed doors. He may not always say I'm proud of you. He may not always tell me that, he saw this or that, but then what he always does is slips up and says something. I'm like, man, he was watching, you know what I mean? So that's how it goes. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like, it's that weird. It's weird. It's like, you telling me to keep my mouth shut and listen to this man who you don't know how this man speaks to me. Listen, I've been there. Nobody's going to speak to you the way trust me, I get it. My dad speaks to me the way no man would ever want another man to speak to him. But it is what it is. Got the job done. Yeah. Keep your mouth shut. Stay respectful. Remain calm and understanding and open to the possibilities, because whoever it is with you right now is who's going to be there in the long run. Whoever was there in the beginning, they're going to be there in the long run. Whoever came in the middle, whoever came close to the end or whatever, those are the people those people are recyclable. You know what I mean? The family is never going to be recyclable. I only get one dad. You know what I mean?
That's facts. Yeah. Now, with that type of influence, I'm pretty sure that has kind of changed the way that you look at parenting, as far as the relationship that you want to build with your children.
It's amazing, because it's like, I always feel it. My son is only 3 years old, and my other son is 9 months. But I still, even at this early age in their lives, I get this dose of Kenny Porter. Then I get a dose of my mom, Janetta Alves. Then I get a dose of all of these different people who've been a part of my life. And it's more doses of Kenny Porter than anybody else. But then I always figure out a way of like, I'm doing Kenny Porter. Let me figure out a way to make that Shawn Porter, so that,
put your own spin to it.
Yeah, one day, Shaddai ain't saying, man, dad, you treat me like your dad treated you. You know what I mean? So, so it's amazing to have the guidance that I've had to this point. People don't really understand. My dad was learning on the job. My dad was learning on the job as a father, and he was learning on the job as a manager, And so now I'm like, my dad is signing other fighters now. And I'm like, these dudes are going to be well ahead of the game, because my dad he's run around the track 100 times with me. He's ready for anything these guys
that
are
going to throw
face. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Dad says to me, he said he was doing interviews. He would say, people ask the same question you ask: how do you separate father and son from, coach and dad and fighter? My dad says there's no separation. What does every coach want from their athlete? They want their athlete to trust them. They want the athlete to be understanding to them. They want their athlete to perform as if, giving it their all. Wants that love and that admiration and that trust and that foundation right there. He said, I got all that and I didn't have to go looking for it. I got it right here in my son. So everything that any coach could ever want, I have right here. Why would I try to take that out? He says, you can't separate it. The best thing you can do is just make it work. And that's what my dad and I have been able to do.
Well, it's obviously y'all don't made it work over 30 times, apparently. I mean, I'm just saying the numbers don't lie. People do, but numbers don't lie. So let's get into that. You know what I'm saying? The fighting world, boxing game. Now, I want you to take me in your brain, okay? I want to go into the mind of Showtime.
Okay.
The first person that you hit with that hammer and you saw them fall. I mean, down goes Frazier.
Oh man.
Take me through that moment.
I think the very first time it happened, I think I was 14. And I think that it's exhilarating. I think a lot of fighters, if you ask them to explain what it feels like to knock somebody out, it's almost like when you go to the carnival or to an amusement park and you hit that thing and the thing and it goes zzz. When we throw those punches, we're trying to get that thing to go all the way up. And when it does for that moment, there's a spike of energy. And it's almost like you outside yourself. It's like, all that. You know what I mean? It's this energy that just kind of shoots up in you, right? So I think I was 14 the first time that had happened. And it was quick. And it was just like that, being, and then it's like after that for me, because I'm very humble and I'm just humble by nature. For me, it's 3 to 4 seconds of and then is he okay? You know what I mean? And then,
Get up, come on.
Yeah, and then once he's okay, it's like, yo, did you see what happened? We got something here, you know what I mean? And it's just a matter of trying to be duplicated,
So as a fighter, you don't have some exhilarating times with the wins, but then also in your career, you've had to battle for some tough times. Kell Brook, fight didn't go the way you wanted. I mean, it was a battle, but he got the best of you.
Yeah.
When you took that L, where were you at mentally?
It's kind of hard to go back there now. I don't really remember exactly what happened between the time of that fight and next fight. So let's go back just a little bit more.
Okay.
I fought Julio Diaz. And the first time I fought Julio Diaz, we fought to a draw. So Julio Diaz was supposed to be that guy to take me to another level. He was the former world champion. He was the veteran in the game, and you knock him out, and then this skyrockets you to another level. And so I kind of went into that fight thinking, this is what I'm gonna do. This dude is too old for me, you know what I mean? And I kind of read into everything that had been said about him being at a lower weight, and so on and so forth. And I basically underestimated him, and I dropped the ball and got a draw, right? And I'm looking at my dad like I lost the fight. And he says, why are you so hard on yourself about this draw? I said, man, I just did so much wrong in that fight. And I feel like I lost. He said, the best thing is you got to draw. You did not lose the fight. He says, so, and at this point in time, I actually was depressed over a draw. I was depressed. Just didn't see everything that happened. I didn't expect it. And it's a part of life, and I was depressed and standing in a hotel room and all that kind of stuff. My dad comes to the room. He says, you need to get out of this room. You need to go see some friends, get out, get some energy around you. And then at that point in time was when we were about to move to Las Vegas. He says, I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to find a spot. I'll be back. So that's exactly what he did. By the time he left and came back, boom, we back in Vegas. And so when we're back in Vegas, my only thing on my mind is I got to get that draw back. Finally, we end up fighting. I think 2 fights later, we fight. I beat him unanimously.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't no draw that time.
And I grew from that, right? So it was like everything you would expect me to experience in a loss, I kind of experienced in the draw, right? So you fast forward, now I'm against Kell Brook. And, I was reading into some other hypes again, and I was coming off of a big knockout. No excuses, but I just thought like every single round for 12 rounds, I thought all it's going to take is one punch. I'm going to knock him out, and we selling off into the sunset. That didn't happen. I gave him one speed the whole fight. I gave him one look the whole fight, and I ended up losing the fight. So after that loss, it was like everything right in the face really quickly. This is why you lost. And it was like, boom, okay, that's what I did. I'm never gonna do that again. Let's move forward. You know what I mean? So I took the draw harder, the draw harder than I took the loss, but I learned a lot in the draw. And then immediately in the loss, I saw exactly what I did wrong. And I was like, I can't allow that to ever happen again. And to this point, it has not. So I grew from both, from a draw and from a loss, you know?
You know, I think that's interesting because when you talk about that draw, you know, and where I'm from, getting a draw is like kissing your sister, man. Don't nobody ever want to get a draw. Either I want to win or I want to lose. You don't want to be doing all that other stuff. So I can understand you going through that mindset. But the resiliency that you had to dig deep, to keep fighting, to keep going, and then you go through the draw, then you have the loss. And I like how you said everything just came to your vision. But what kept you going? Because there's some people in this world, when they hit a hurdle, that's it. I'm not cut out for this. And they stop. But you didn't do that. You still continuing to fight. You still fighting, getting ready to fight now. So how do you keep going after going through so much adversity?
This is what I can tell everybody. There has to be an expectation that you have. There has to be kind of a bar, and you have to continuously try to reach that bar. We call it plateauing. Once you plateau, once you hit that point where you are just one level and you don't feel or want to exceed and do better, whatever it is, it's time to let that go and move into something else. And so for me, at that point in time, when I got that loss, a lot of people, I don't remember what the betting line was like, but there were more people expecting me to win that fight than to lose that fight. And so it was another opportunity, a lot like the draw, for me to prove myself. And anybody that knows Showtime Shawn Porter knows that if you want Shawn Porter to prove himself, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so that's what I did, man. It was like I took a hit in that loss, and then suffering that loss, it was a lot of people, see, told you this, told you that. He ain't this, he ain't that. And my bar is up here. I didn't reach that bar in that fight. So it was like I'm down here, and it was like, I can't accept that. I gotta get here. You know what I mean? And that's why when I told that story, that's why I said you've never seen the same Shawn Porter that you saw in Kell Brook, and you've never seen it. You really don't see the same Shawn Porter fight after fight after fight after fight. You see adjustments and you see some different things in the ring, and it's because my bar is so high. I missed that bar one time, and I never intend to miss that bar again. So even in 2 losses, it's like I missed the bar, but I really was up there. I just was up against another guy whose bar is just as high, and it was a great night. You know what I mean?
Listen, so that fight you had with Thurman, man, that was like watching. I thought I was watching a Universal Pictures movie, man. That was whoa.
We talk about boxing being like war. I don't think that when you look at that fight and you look at war, I think you can see how hand in hand boxing and war goes. And let me pull back just a little bit, because I do understand the severity of a war.
Yes, sir.
But you also have to understand the severity of boxing, where our lives really are on the line. You know, we're not throwing stuff at each other that, you know, obviously, or not obviously, but we're not throwing stuff at each other. It's one and done. You know what I mean? But, you know,
it can be. Keep the right one.
Time, you know, keep calling yourself one time. You know what I mean? So, but, you know, just to say, you know, for the most part, most times when you're in the ring, it's not just one and done. It becomes this thing of technique, and it becomes a thing of strategy, and it becomes a thing of one round at a time. You know what I mean? And that fight with Keith Thurman was literally a war. I think it was more of a war than my fight with Errol Spence Jr.
Listen, well, I tell you what, that your style, man. Everybody knows if you see a Shawn Porter fight, you're gonna see a fight. You're gonna see somebody who get in there. You ain't holding back. You don't play the radio too loud. You coming after somebody, how big, how small.
Yeah.
Now, Mike Tyson said, Mike Tyson be having some phrases, but he had one phrase where he said, everybody got a plan until they get hit in the face. As a boxer, when you going in and you get hit with one of those shots, what goes through your mind when the leg's shaking, you trying to keep everything together? How do y'all bounce back from that so quickly?
That is the separation between being a professional at the highest level and just being a professional or not being a professional. So there's the level, you know what I mean? In a true championship fight, no disrespect to those guys, but in a true championship fight, you have 2 professionals who are masters physically and masters mentally. And so it's always a game. You hit me, but I always got to show this face like it didn't hurt. I hit you, but you always got to let me know, show me a sign that didn't affect you the way I wanted it to. Because if I see anything different, puts on the gas pedal, I smell blood and I'm coming after you. You know what I mean? So boxing is just one of those things, especially when you're young and you grow up in the sport. That's another separation where guys who come into it, they say come into it late. When you come into it late does not mean that you don't have the attributes that it takes to be a professional. There's just some things that you go through the course of time that get you to the level that you're at. And if you have not had the opportunity to go through that maturation, then you don't have it. And so for me, and I know for a lot of fighters, but I'll speak for myself, mentally is where the fight's won more than physically for me. I'm gifted. God gave me everything that I have. I've been working on since I was 4 years old. It's all there. Physically, it's all there. Mentally, I have to be prepared for the fighter. Mentally, I have to be prepared for certain moments in the fight. Mentally, I have to be prepared for whenever I do get hit, how do I recover and things like that, making the right moves when I do get hit, whether I need to hold this guy and clinch this guy, whether I need to hit this guy back, to get him off of me, whether I need to move, create some separation. It's all like your mind goes through so much. And then there you go. There's a separation. The guys who can manage everything that your mind goes through and perform at an elite level, those are the best professionals in boxing.
Now, you brought up a good point when you brought up Nate Robinson, and big ups to Nate. I think hoping he's doing better. As a boxer, this is your craft. This is what you do professionally. Mm-hmm. Do you guys take these exhibition fights as disrespectful to the sport? Like, when you see that, do you see that like you making a mockery of what I do? From a boxer's point of view, what's the viewpoint on that?
I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'll speak for myself. And I'm just going to speak for myself. When I turned pro, a lot of people don't know this, but when you turn pro, you go buy a license. You pay and you get a license to fight professionally. You could fight professionally this weekend if you wanted to. That's how easy it is. So and I'm no joke, when I went and did it, I said, that's it. My dad said, yeah, that's it. Let's go. And like my heart was left in that moment of that was all I had to do was sign a couple papers and pay $35 and now I'm a professional. Where you would think I would be excited, something said this ain't right. Something said
it's too easy.
It's not sitting with me. I should have been ready to go do everything that I'm doing now, but something didn't sit right with me in that moment. I was like, this ain't fair. You can't do this in the NFL. You can't do this in the NBA. This ain't fair. And so for a long time, I was mad and I was aggravated about it. That guys who did not do everything that I did to get where I got can just immediately be where I'm at and do what I'm doing. I felt it was disrespectful, especially a lot of these guys suck. I'm just go ahead and say it. They suck. But as I've grown and as I've matured, and this is prior to these guys, somebody said to me, Shawn, those guys are necessary for the sport. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? How is a guy who has an 0-5 record necessary for boxing? He says, well, who did you fight in your debut? And they started to think, like, I probably did fight a guy who was 2-0 in my debut. I probably did fight a guy who was 1-3 at some point in my career. Those guys are at some capacity necessary for the sport. Do I like it? No, but it is what it is. And so you move forward and you see guys like Jake Paul, you see guys like Nate Robinson. When those guys go out there, I'm going to speak for myself, I want those guys to have gone through a training camp. I want those guys who have felt what it's like to prepare for a big night, because that's what's ahead of those guys. And to that point, I've been told, I've not seen that personally, but I've been told that Jake Paul and his brother take it very seriously. I've been told that they are competitors. And when they're getting in the ring, they're getting in the ring as fighters. They're not getting in the ring as YouTubers. What they're known to be. And so just saying all that to say, from a business perspective, it is what it is. And that's how I looked at it from day one. Somebody came up to me, yo, they're making X amount of dollars and they not even doing, they don't got no belt, How you feel? I'm like, it is what it is. I said, I can be mad. I can get on every platform and voice my opinion, but their night's still going to be had. They're still going to make that money, and they're still going to, those fans who are fans of them are still going to watch them, and they're going to go home and be happy. So I'm going to do exactly what I do when people talk about what I'm wearing on TV, or they talk about me not having such and such car, or me not having such and such house. You don't live my life. You don't go home with me. I'm laying next to my wife. As long as she's happy, I'm good. I don't have to deal with you. So I don't care. And so so I kind of took the same mindset when it comes to those guys. I don't outwardly support what they got going on. Yeah, I've not done anything from a media standpoint to support what they got going on. I feel like it's something that could be advantageous for boxing, but I don't look at them with a hard heart, like, you making X amount of money more than me, and you didn't do everything that I did, because what's that going to do? I'm going to put all that energy towards that, and then they still going to go out there and have the night that they had.
And they still going to get that check, so it's pointless. But, you notice that people are just like, I believe Brandon Marshall talking about he want to fight Deontay Wilder. I'm like, man, that boy throws sludge hammers, man. Like he
doesn't want to dream with D. Come on, Brandon, don't do that.
Look, give him a PSA, man. Talk to him, man. They don't need to do that.
That's my guy. So I'm a football dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we going to the fights at the Barclays, and Brandon is showing up at the fights. And I don't know if the other fighters know who he is, but I want the seat next to Brandon. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a fan. You know what I mean? You've been on my fantasy football
for
team
years.
a couple times. You know what I mean? So we finally we linked up a couple times here and there, different fights. We talk boxing, all that kind of stuff. He's a boxing enthusiast. You know what I mean? And what I would, just like Nate Robinson, what I would say is, if you want to do something like fighting Deontay Wilder, take on another challenge first, get in the boxing gym and start training. Don't go the public route of saying everything you want to do to get eyes on you, because once the eyes is on you, it's too late. You know what I mean? You need to figure it out first. And maybe he's been to a couple gyms and he's like, yo, I can do this. I hope you can, but don't go the route where you calling out these big heads and you're not ready for it.
And especially Wilder. That boy got mutant hands, man.
Listen, we ain't seen Wilder in over a year now. We don't know what Wilder's coming to the ring next, but what we do know is just what you said. That dude got a hammer. And if that bad boy land, he's gonna go to the hospital. It's unfortunate. I'm not wishing nothing on nobody, but it's 99. It's a scary thing when that dude touches people.
Listen, I'm telling you what I've seen some of his fights, and I'm like, listen, man, I just want to be your friend, man. I don't want no smoke with you, man. I don't want no problem.
I just want to be your friend. That's the best thing to do with D, man. Just be his friend.
Now, let's talk about your division, the welterweight division, man. Y'all got some heavyweights, man. You had a great fight with Earl Spence, and now I believe the talks is they're talking about Bud Crawford versus Pacquiao, but I know you've been verbal saying that you want to fight either one of those guys. First off, before we go into that possible fight, what is the fight that Shawn Porter wants next?
I really want Terrence Crawford. I just feel like that's the next step up. One thing I think everybody can look at my career and say is, Shawn Porter, after taking losses, he never came back to the ring like he lost the previous fight. You know what I mean? And so, in saying that, just to say, when I'm saying I want to fight Terrence Crawford, people might be saying you don't have a belt, or they might be saying, well, you lost to Errol Spence Jr. You got 3 losses and a draw, so on and so forth. My whole thing is, styles make fights. A lot of people don't really understand what that means, but the Shawn Porter that lost to Errol Spence Jr. could possibly even knock out Terrence Crawford. Or the Errol Spence Jr. that almost lost to Shawn Porter could knock out Terrence Crawford. Or the Terrence Crawford that just knocked out Kell Brook can knock out Manny Pacquiao. Yeah. And Manny Pacquiao just put down Keith Thurman in the first round and then carried him 12 rounds. You know what I mean? Like, these are great matches that need to be made for the world. Styles make fights. And we're coming to a situation now where you really don't know who's going to win the fight. You may have some feelings of who could win. But when that bell ring, everybody has this feeling of excitement and a feeling of of mystery, of you really not knowing exactly what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So that's the best part about being in the welterweight division right now. You talk about the four horsemen and Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Roberto Duran. Right now, there's more horsemen than just four. And I think that's great for boxing. It just needs to be publicized and put out there, and the fights need to be made.
You know, the welterweight division is literally the most exciting division because you have so many names. And like you just threw a conglomeration of fights that I want to see every last one of them.
Yeah.
But what holds up these fights from happening? Like, is it the promoter? Is it the why can't we get these fights? For example, Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence, man, they might make $7 billion on a pay-per-view, but these fights don't happen. What is the holdup?
Let me say this. And this has been said, and this is an absolute fact. People say when you get in the ring with Shawn Porter, you don't leave the ring the same. That's a fact of boxing. We'll take it off of Shawn Porter and we'll just put it on boxing. When you're in a professional match, 12 rounds nonetheless, championship against another elite fighter, a piece of you stays in the ring. It's a part of it. You know what I mean? And that's why NFL season is 18 to 19 weeks or something like that. It's because those guys need time to rest. Those guys need time to recover. Those guys need time to live life, and then they'll come back and they'll have another season. With boxing, we don't even have the opportunity to do it the way the football players do it when it's bi-weekly, because what we've learned is bi-weekly boxing is not good for our health. Bi-weekly boxing is going to leave us deteriorating, physically not all there, mentally not all there. And in the long term, we will have a short life because of what we've done in the boxing ring. So what we do now is we don't fight as often. And we don't fight as often, not because we don't want to, but because science has shown us that it's not healthy and that it's not good for us to fight as often as y'all will want us to. So that's the first thing. So then you move into, why is this fight being made? We'll go back to my first point. People know, or not people, but the business knows, once Terrence Crawford gets in the ring with Shawn Porter, Terrence Crawford might beat Shawn Porter, but X amount of months later, Terrence Crawford may not be the same Terrence Crawford getting in the ring. So let's do the best we can to keep him healthy. Let's do the best we can to put him in front of guys who are not going to hurt him. He's going to look great in front of, and everybody makes money. We have a good night. So when we talk about the business of boxing, it's not just money that we're talking about. The people who are pushing the buttons also know, and they're aware of all of the ins and outs, small things, the intricacies that can happen in any given match. And because of that, they're always saying, not yet. They're always saying it's not time. They're always pulling it back, and they're always making you wait, and they're always trying to do it and make it a very strategical situation where everybody wins, which is very hard to do when there's so much money involved. There's different promotional teams involved. There's different networks involved, different managers involved. So it's a situation where people just have to be patient. One last thing I'm going to say is, everybody says UFC is doing so much better than boxing because the UFC is putting the best against the best. Yes, the UFC is putting the best against the best. Their fights aren't as long. They aren't taking as much physical damage, and they got one guy operating everything, and that is Dana White. Dana White operates everything. And so people don't really understand all of this, or they don't see all of this. And the only thing they see is, well, that was another great fight by the UFC. We're still waiting on boxing to do it. That was another great fight by the UFC. We're still waiting on boxing to do it. The business is ran differently. The sport is a little different. The guys aren't getting paid as much, so they got to get back out there sooner than later so that they can feed their families, so on and so forth. I feel like I'm telling on a bunch of people, so let's just change the subject.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna keep on. I'm my popcorn. Hey, you ain't said nothing slick. You ain't gonna get in trouble. Hold on one second. Oh, listen, you ain't said nothing slick. Okay. Hey, I'm like, Shawn out here giving all the churches money. Hey, keep on. So with that, I can understand what you're saying about the strategic part to making boxing happen. But as a boxing fan, I'm gonna keep this trip. Damn it, I want to see fights. And now I noticed you said a couple of times that Terrence Crawford get in the ring with you, he ain't gonna be the same fighter. I like that. I like that mindset. You say, hey, he don't want none of that smoke.
Listen, my whole thing when I came into this, I came into it because of my dad. I didn't care about boxing. I didn't know what boxing was. I'm 4 years old. I just want to go home and eat some pizza. You know what I mean? But my dad has just always had a working mind. His rule when we went to the boxing gym with him was you weren't allowed to sit down in the boxing gym. And I still don't sit down in the boxing gym because of that rule that was established so long ago. So, excuse me. So when he introduced boxing to me, he gave me a tape and he says, check this out. It's Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, and I picked Marvelous Marvin. I just thought there was something about him. You know what I mean? I connected with him. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point at my young age of probably like 10 years old where I saw the crowd that he was performing in front of. I could hear the noise on the tape. And I was like, man, I want to be a part of that. I want, that's what I want to do. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's just always been a part of greatness. It's always been about having big crowds. It's always been about having tons and tons and thousands and millions of people watching me, watching what I did. And it was because I felt like, to me, that's what boxing was. Boxing was what Marvin Hagler and Ray Leonard did. Boxing was what Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns did. And it was like, that's what I want. You know what I mean? So when we fast forward and we're talking about now, yeah, I really want to get a ring with Terrence Crawford. It's nothing personal. It's nothing, it's not about me trying to eat off his plate or nothing like that at all. You get that sometimes where guys are like, oh man, why don't you go in, man, fade in the back, man, fade the back. Cause you ain't got no belt. You know what I mean? You just trying to eat off of his plate. I'm that good, you know what I mean? And I want it, you know what I mean? And I want to be a part of greatness, you know? So when you hear me saying somebody else's name, it's just simply me wanting to be a part of greatness.
Listen, I love it, you know, but you know what, that brings me, so we talk about greatness. Like what I hope that we get these good fights before we get past this prime. Like example was the Pacquiao Mayweather fight. Yeah. That was a fight that we would have all loved to have saw, 5 years before we actually saw the fight. Yeah. But I'm going to pose a different question to you. Now, you have the undefeated Mayweather, but then you have the multi-division Pacquiao. In your opinion, who's had a better boxing career?
Yeah. I always felt like it was Manny Pacquiao. I felt like when you go through 8 divisions and you are no less than outstanding every time out, that to me speaks highly, you know. But here's the separation I feel with Floyd. Floyd came into the professional boxing game when he was pretty boy. Gotcha. He had a style of punishment. He had a style of speed, and he had a style of beating you to the punch. He was aggressive. He was a hard hitter. And then he went from being pretty boy to being money, changing his style completely and still being just as great. And then my thing is he never reverted back to that style ever again. And there's really no one who can train their mind to do something like that. That is just flat out different. That's flat out different. And I'm the kind of guy, my dad has always, he showed me so many different things, and then he'll want me to get in the ring and do one thing. And I'm like, Dad, like I can do this and that. No, I just want you to do that. Just do that. If you do this and that, you lost today. I just want you to do that. It's so hard to hone in on one thing and just do one thing and be great at one thing. But my dad's thing is, if I can make you great at this one thing and you've got those things, how much better are you going to be? But if you're using 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're all over the place, and you're not trying to maximize 1 or maximize 2, 3 or 4 is going to be sloppy, and you're just going to be a very good sloppy fighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this great, and then I'm going to make this great, and then I'm going to make this great, and that's how we've come along. But Floyd changed his style completely, and it's just, to me, that's amazing. I'll figure out a way to go deeper into that at some point on maybe I can have you come on my podcast or something like that, because it takes some time to really get people to understand what I'm talking about. But to me, that's the separation between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Manny's did eight divisions, amazing, unbelievable stuff. But Floyd was great from beginning to end, but he wasn't the same from beginning to end. How can you be completely turn yourself and still be just as great.
And
I just think that that's amazing. Yeah. So I would say that Floyd is the better boxer. Obviously, we saw that in the fight too.
Yeah, it was definitely a fight. I mean, one we would have wanted to see sooner. But you know what? Before we get out of here, we're gonna get into a couple of small things, man. Let's hear in your opinion. I need 2 lists because people in this world love lists.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna do a whole separate clip just on this one list because they love lists.
Yeah.
To you, give me the top 5 boxers right now, any division.
Any division, top 5 right now. I'm gonna say Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., Showtime Shawn Porter, Tyson Fury, and I'm gonna take myself out.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put in Tank Davis, and I'm gonna put in Teofimo Lopez.
That Tank Davis is a problem.
And I mean, I think 10 is a little easier than 5 because there's a lot of really good fighters out there right now. I mean, off the top of my head, I already know who I didn't put on the list, and I include myself. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna take myself off and put on somebody else. But it's a lot of really good fighters out there right now.
Okay, all right. Second list. If we had this magical time machine, and you said I could fight 5 people in their prime. These are the people that, man, come on. These are you got to ask. Dream fights.
I don't know.
Come on, who you going against?
Dream fights for myself.
For yourself.
Dream fights that I would want to see?
Dream fights for you to say, man, I would love to step in the ring with that guy.
Nobody.
That's
my answer, man. Listen, Marvin Hagler was different. Tommy Hearns was different. Tommy was sitting right here in my house. He is 62 years old, and I still was looking at him intimidated. You know what I mean? Look, because I knew what he was and what he did. And I told the funny story. I said, man, the first time we met, you asked me, he asked me what weight I fought at. And I told him the weight. Thank you, love. I told him the weight. And he said, he didn't know me. And it was at an expo. He said, man, what weight you fight? I said, 147. 147? I said, yeah. He said, man, I'd have kicked your ass back in the day. and then boom. And then just kept moving. And my heart went up. My heart rate went up. I got kind of nervous. Then I got mad. He disrespected me. He don't know who I am. And it's like, well, that's Tommy Hearns. So, best.
We're just going to live with it.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't want to fight none of them guys, man. Them guys was just different. And even though everybody says that I'm different now, I just think that the boxing game was a little different back in the day than it is now. You know what I mean? So all the heart and courage and skill and all that you see I got, man, when I look at them guys, I just don't want to touch them. I don't want to touch them.
Listen, I don't blame you. I don't want to fight now, not one of y'all. Listen. People out here with them combos y'all be throwing. Look at man, I pick up a stick or something, man. Come on now.
That's what I'm supposed to do. I gotta pick a fight I'm gonna win, right?
Yeah, you supposed to.
Who want to pick a fight that they gonna lose or they gonna get hurt in? You know what I mean?
And that's some tough competition.
I grew up watching Tyson. You know what I mean? I can't say I want to get in the ring with Tyson. You know what I mean? So,
nobody wants to get in the ring with Tyson. I think Roy Jones was mad he got in the ring with Tyson.
I don't want to get in the ring with 2021 Tyson. I don't.
Well, you know what? Look, let's step outside the ring. What else do you have going on that people may not be aware of, man? Because they only know what they see on YouTube or what they see. Yeah. But what else does Shawn Porter have going on, man?
I am living an amazing life, man. God has taken me through a lot of different growth periods. You know what I mean? And at this point now, with everything that happened last year, I was doing Fox. We had a network program called Inside PBC Boxing. And once this pandemic happened, we went home and I went and got a whole bunch of gear. I'm like, all right, cool. Cause I'm watching ESPN all the time and all that. I'm like, we'll start doing our show from home. They shut the show down and it was like, well, I probably should start this podcast that I've been talking about starting for the last 2 years. You know what I mean? And we put the pieces to the puzzle together. And I told my guys, I said, we shot a couple of episodes that we were using as pilots to kind of shop to some different people and stuff like that. And I looked at my guys and said, man, listen, we just gonna go. And again, I learned a lot from my dad when I turned pro. Believe it or not, and just this is the only story. Just to give you an example.
I got you.
Don King sent my dad a contract. My dad calls Don, says, Don, there's no numbers on this contract. Don says, no, I want you to put the numbers in. Whatever you guys want, we'll get you whatever you want. And I heard this. I want to be, this is exactly what I've been waiting on, right? Looked at my dad, I said, put the numbers there. You know what I mean? My dad said, Shawn, we can't do that. I said, why? He said, I'm going to have somebody look at the contract, came back to me, said, we can't sign this contract. And now I'm hurt. Like, what are you talking about? It's Don King. You know what I mean? What he says, Shawn, if you sign this contract, you're going to be locked up for 10 years. And then guess what? You're going to be locked up for another 10 years. And guess what? Your career is going to be over because your career is not going to be that long. We're not going to sign this contract. What we're going to do is bet on ourselves. We're going to fight to a point where they're going to have to pay us. And that's exactly what we did. We turned pro with a smaller promotional company, but then we got to a point where eventually we ended up signing with PBC, and PBC gave us the money that Don was expecting us to 10 years. Sign for a long time ago, you know what I mean? And we're in a much better position. So I looked at my guys. I said, listen, man, we going to do this ourselves. We taking launch, and when we do, we ain't looking back. Anthony Bernard, your guy, my guy, he says, man, listen, I'm here. Let's do it. And my other guy, Carson, he said, yo, I'm here. Let's go. And that's what we did, man. This thing has lifted off, and it's been amazing. People watch it. They're in tune. They love it. And I love it. I'm steadily always trying to get better. So I'm like, yo, tell me, I don't care about the good comments. Tell me about the bad comments. Tell me where we need to improve, and we'll change up, do this or that, I got that. I'm starting the Porterweight Foundation. This is the Porterweight podcast. And basically, so just to give you it real quick, boxing is kind of like, it's all about who you're with. And if you're with PBC, you're only talking about PBC. You're only talking about Fox. If you're with Top Rank, you're only talking Top Rank. ESPN, same thing for the Zone, same thing for Golden Boy. The Porterweight is boxing. We talk boxing. We talk the best of boxing. We're not talking about just this entity or just that entity. And that's what the Porterweight is, man. The Porterweight is being able to do things your way, being able to do things that separates you from everybody else, being able to do things that everybody else can look at and have some motivation or have some inspiration and feel good about. You know what I mean? That's what the Porterweight is, you know? So that's why we started the podcast. I'm starting the Porterweight Foundation. That's going to be geared towards helping young men and also geared towards helping the homeless. And involved with that, I'm also involved with Give an Hour. That's coming up in just a couple of weeks. Give an Hour is a foundation that is geared towards mental health. And so what Give an Hour is for a whole week, we're going to do something that's geared towards an hour of giving or inspiring or educating people on mental health, how to get help, how to understand what's going on, where you need to go to seek more knowledge and things like that, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's about it. I got NBC now. I'm broadcasting for NBC. We got NBC April 22nd. We'll be at the military base. We were just in Puerto Rico for a couple of weeks. We'll be at West Point on April 22nd, broadcasting from there. That's been an amazing platform for boxing to this point. Ring City USA is the promotional team with that. And then I'll be back on Fox pay-per-view broadcasting May 1st. We got Arreola versus Ruiz.
And who win in the fight?
I got Ruiz. Arreola is my guy. I would love to see him win, but it's been a long career for him. So yeah, I'm going with the youth on this one.
Going with the young buck. Now, I see you got headsets. I mean, that tells me you must listen to some type of music, man.
Yeah.
What kind of music does the champ listen to, man? What you got
crazy.
going on?
It's crazy because I know they've been doing the verses. Have you seen any of those verses?
I definitely.
I have not tuned into one. I got my guy Carson who does a show with me. He'll always let me know who's on and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. He sent me a text, yo, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the Isaac Brothers doing it. And I'm like, oh, I gotta see that. So now I'm an old school head, man, to the fullest. If your music came out in the late 70s or the early 90s, yeah, I'm listening to it all day, every day. You know what I mean? But beyond that, the guy that I was listening to as I was getting out of high school was Lupe Fiasco. He is just different. You know what I mean? He different in the rap game, and I've been a fan since day one. He has a live concert that he's doing on futurestream.tv. And I bought my tickets. They was actually talking about me on their podcast because I hit up Royce, wifey. So quick story. I'm trying to get my tickets, and wifey's like, put your phone down. You've been out of town. You need to be with the family. I'm like, yeah, I know you're right. Let me finish this. I'm trying to get my ticket. You know what I mean? Trying to get my ticket.
I'm trying to get set.
But she giving me all this heat. I'm like, fine, forget it. You know, they tossed the phone to the side. Couple of days go by, I forgot about it. When I get back to try to get the ticket that I wanted, the ticket that I wanted was to be able to get on for 2 minutes with Royce and Lupe on their show, and it was sold out. Mm-hmm. So I hit up Royce on the side, like, you know what I mean? I hate to be that dude, but listen, wifey messed me up. I was trying to get the ticket, but wifey messed me up, you know? I still got a ticket, but if it's anything you could do, let me know, you know what I mean? So they was talking about that on their podcast, made me look like a bum. I'm like, man, I shouldn't even said nothing from the beginning, you know?
But you know what? You're going to get a chance to see it, man. If y'all not checking that out, definitely hit out the Lupe Fiasco joint. Now, on a more somber note, man, we lost a legend today, man. We lost DMX.
Yeah,
I mean, I know growing, you said early 90s movie, man, it's Keisha. I mean, listen, he had so many. I can't even name all the people that he named, but I mean, it's just what he did from the music and from that New York standpoint. I give you the floor real quick. The effect that maybe he had on you and as far as your listening.
Me, it was Busta Rhymes and it was DMX. Those two guys, to me, I don't think there's two more rappers that are more fun to see, fun to listen to than those two guys. Animated not only with their voice, but with their lyrics as well. And so DMX separated himself from everybody to me because he had this type of energy that just was just so different and was on another level. And that really was the first thing that I thought about when I found out that he was in critical condition. It was like, dang, I'm never gonna see. We're not gonna see that energy again. You know what I mean? And then now, the worst has happened, and it's like the thing that I reflect on more than anything else. I don't reflect on his lyrics or what he did to the rap game so much as I reflect on his presence. You know what I mean? Whether that was on TV or that was on stage, his presence was always felt. You know what I mean? So I feel like that. For me, that's what I'm gonna miss. He definitely changed the game, and
you hit it now, and that's the only person that comes to your mind, man.
Yeah,
that aggression, that he just came with everything. He did everything he did with pure energy.
Yeah,
so it's definitely a true loss to the culture and to the community, man. So big ups and to my thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family as they battle through these tough times.
Absolutely, for real. And
that brings me to what I like to call the final timeout for the day, ladies and gentlemen. You heard from the champ, man. You got to have your mindset, you got to have your bar set, and you got to have the right settings to get to where you want to get to. You want to be the champ? Go do it. You want to win in life? Go win. But if you don't, stop talking about it and start being about greatness and getting where you want to get to. Champ, man, we want to thank you for taking the time, man. You got anything else you want to give out to the people before we get you out of here?
My question is, like, how many cameras you got, right? And then because you've been looking at me the whole time, then you look up here, like, you know what I mean? Like, why you didn't look at that camera the whole time?
So you listen. We got it's balling on a budget right here. So on here, I got the laptop, but I have the Canon camera that's sitting right here that gives me a much cleaner image. So when you see this, when I edit this, it's going to be your view on this side, and there'll be a Canon camera on the other side. Be like, that wasn't the view I was looking at. Don't worry about all that, okay? It's camera tricks. Camera tricks. Don't be worried about how I get down, man.
You ain't even have to explain yourself.
Oh, you know how we get down, man.
Don't worry about what I'm doing.
Don't worry. It's going to come out right. That's what you worry about.
Listen, man, my absolute pleasure. Bring me back, bro.
Oh, listen. We would love to have you back, especially after you get that next big fight and you put somebody down. I can't wait to have you back so we can get through it, man.
And listen, you got me, man. You bring me back. Don't be like, I don't want to mess with you, man.
No, I got you.
Back.
I got you, man. We are more than happy to have you, man. And that's another episode of Hudrico Live in the books.